Hi, my name is Josh DeYukos, and I dealt with the ThinkSpeak and class definitions of the dice game.
Hello, my name is Fabian Albor, and I implemented the sound effects and animations.
Hi, my name's Tina, and I worked on the GUI and the buttons of this game.
So the rules of the game are simple. It consists of two players taking turns rolling a dice. Within the turns, you roll the dice and keep on trying to gain as many points, adding up the number shown on the dice. The only catch is if you score a one, your points for that turn turns to zero. And the way to win the game is first player to reach a total score of 50 points.
Okay. Now going to the game, when you first open the game, you get two options. You can see the title pig, and you can see the animation effect that we have. There's player one and player two. And just to show that we can play this game remotely, we're gonna show me and Tina playing this game on two different computers, and I'm gonna play as player one. So for this part of the game, after you press your player one or player two button, you get the rules that you can close, and it shows what the rules of the game are just before you play. For your reach goal, for our reach goal, we have that we can pick the color of our background at any point in the game. But for our purposes, I'm just gonna do the original color. Now, after player two is logged into the game and both players have pressed start game, we can we have two options, roll one or draw. And roll one is what gives our temporary score, and draw one is what accumulates that temporary score into that table that we have on the bottom left corner. After you press roll, you get the image of the dice that you get and the number that accumulates into your temporary score. So for me, it was a six and then a four, and now it's 10. And I'm gonna draw it and then give it over to Tina's turn.
While player one is playing, the buttons are disabled, but however, when player one hits draw, player's two side is able to be rolled now. So I'm gonna hit roll to get my dice. Oh, I got a one, so I got no points from that. So I'm gonna roll again to see what I get. I get a two. I'm gonna hit draw, and then I'm gonna have both the scores of player one and player two show up into my table.
As you can see from this interaction, you can see how the data is transported from player to player. Because when I pressed draw, it went over to Tina's turn, which was player two. And then after Tina pressed draw, it went from two to one, showing that it was my turn now. And field two and field three, they show the point score for player one and player two. And these scores are put into the table, as well as field four, which is the value that plays when the game starts. So, after we talked about the thing speak and talked about how the data transfers between different windows, Tina and I can now race against each other to see who wins the game. Now, after pressing draw, I will reach 50 points and win the game. As you can see, I reached 50 points, and when I press either roll or draw again, it only says player one wins. And it will show up the same on Tina's screen if she presses roll one or draw as well.
So currently on my side, it looks like I can still make another move and play again. But if I hit roll, as Josh mentioned before, it disables the roll and drop button, and it says player one wins on the bottom.
Now, after establishing how gameplay works, we can now look at the code and see how everything functions to make the game work.
The roll dice button triggers a function which generates a random integer between 1 to 6. The generated number would be added to the player's temporary score. However, if the number 1 is rolled, the temporary score would be resetted to 0. If the player hits the draw button, the score in the temp section would be added to the player's score through ThinkSpeak and displayed for both players to see. The temp score saved will be displayed on the table. The message label updates to announce the winner of the game. When the requirements of the player's score meeting or exceeding 50 points are met, the label will display either player 1 wins or player 2 wins. If neither player have won yet, an encouraging message of almost there is displayed. When the winner is determined, the dice roll and draw button will be disabled, as well as celebratory sounds going off for the winner. As a part of our reach goals, we also created a customizable background color picker to enhance the player's experience. The color chosen will be updated to reflect the user's preferences.
The player class holds the score for each player in a window for the game. The class contains a score property and a constructor function that defines the score of the player. The property is public in order to be accessed and exported to ThinkSpeak to update the scores of the corresponding player in the other window. The startup function intakes a number assigned to its parameter to set the player number of a window, which through the use of a conditional for the number, sets who is player 1 and who is player 2 on the window. The roll and draw buttons are also disabled until the start game button pushed is enabled and writes the first values to ThinkSpeak for the player's scores. The start game button push gives two options to roll or draw for a window. The game runs on the assumption that player 1 starts first. So when player 2 starts the game before player 1, all the buttons for player 2 remain disabled until player 1 presses the start game button. The clear ThinkSpeak channel overwrites any other values on ThinkSpeak to start a new game. The send data to other player function sends the player number, the player 1 score, and the player 2 score to the ThinkSpeak channel. The wait for other player function, through the use of a while loop, allows for each window to continuously read and process values from the ThinkSpeak channel even if it isn't their turn. The display in the function allows for a user to track the data in ThinkSpeak without opening up a channel. When the while loop ends, the data read is written into a window to update the values.
Y and the sampling rate fs. And for the reason we use if and else is so that no matter what number is shown on the dice rolled, the dice sound will play. And these are two more sound effects I implemented, which sound effects are depending whether you score a 1, which is bad, and any other number, which is a success. This is one sound effect that we implemented that was unable to be heard during the Zoom.